What's up, guys? Brandon Storl here with Pebble Creek Outdoors, and welcome to another live edition of Pebble Creek Outdoors. Today we're going to kind of go over a few different things. I'm in the garage hanging out, um, kind of taking care of some stuff around the house. Decided to take a little minute and um, put some stuff together and get with you guys. So I know it's in the middle of the week. It's Wednesday at 2:06, so most of you probably won't see this until it comes out later on. Um, but I wanted to talk a little bit about subsistence living and how important it is to my lifestyle and how it may improve your lifestyle. So, um, in short, what we have in the United States today is that we have a very dependent um, society. We are all very, very dependent on the grid. Now, some of us are not. Some of us are halfway. Some of us are completely dependent. Somebody who lives in downtown um, in a high-rise apartment and you never travel more than 5 miles uh, from your place, you're probably completely dependent on society or the grid or just the system in general. When I refer to the system in general, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the electrical system, the electrical companies, the food system, which is all the major food companies and everybody who brings you your food that you pay money to, and also the monetary system, so where you go to work and somebody gives you money in return for your services, and you're completely dependent upon that particular job or that particular career field, and you don't have any other methods of income, whether it be something that you do on your own or anything like that. So at some point in time, we're going to kind of get into the proper, doomsday kind of conversations with a lot of this stuff. But I think what we're going to really kind of go over today is how to integrate subsistence living into your regular everyday lifestyle, and how to slowly start separating yourself from the grid and separating yourself from the system so that you can provide for your family if those systems go down, and you can also save yourself a ton of money, and on a third note, provide your family with a healthy food source that most people um, in the city would probably pay top dollar in order to do. So this is going to be kind of geared towards folks who live out in the country or in a rural area, around a rural area. I mean, guys, I live in a small city. I'm not out in the woods. I don't have my own little, back 40. I'm not a hand-me-down farm guy or anything like that. I literally own a chunk of ground inside of a city, and we do a lot of stuff to try and save money and to provide ourselves with really healthy food. So, number one, starting out, like probably the best thing, if you guys don't hunt or don't fish or don't do anything in the outdoors, like far as if you're not cool with killing stuff or you don't want to do anything like that, start a garden. Wife and I, we've got a big family garden. We've got probably 0.20 of an acre of garden, and we're growing everything from tomatoes to sweet corn, melons, everything. And these are things that are seasonal crops that can kind of get expensive. I try to grow a lot of stuff that I can freeze and save for the next year. So sweet corn's really good. So you can plant a lot of sweet corn, and you can do it on a quarter acre. I mean, in your backyard, whatever you want to do. I'll tell you what I love about it is I don't have to mow that area. And when I'm growing sweet corn, it just grows up big and tall and does its thing. So I get that sweet corn. You cut it up, bag it up, and you throw it in your freezer, and you got sweet corn all year. You don't even have to can it. Tomatoes, we can tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, we eat them. Obviously, there's a lot of fresh vegetables that we eat in the summertime. That's just part of the seasonal, um, good gut time. I mean, you get to eat a lot of good stuff in the summertime. So we kind of run that. Um, just kind of going season by season wise. So one of the big things that I like to run in the summertime is I'd like to run fish. I do a lot of fishing. And I know everybody, for those of you who are outdoorsmen, sportsmen that watch the channel, you guys like to rod and reel fish, catch, bass, crappie, whatever. And that is a ton of fun. I love doing that from time to time. But I'll tell you guys what I like to do is I like to run set lines and trot lines and limb lines and catch catfish. And I like to catch fish in numbers um, as much as legally possible on a particular setup. And what I do with that is I take all those fish and I store them away in a freezer, and I try to keep all that stuff um, and get enough in the springtime to last me all the way through summer to get fish fries done, because we eat a lot of fish all summer, and then some to go into the winter. Um, and that kind of leads me into, so we do our gardens, we do our fishing and stuff like that in the summertime. And summer's always a bountiful harvest. You always got tons of food prices are cheap, it's really good. What you're trying to do is you're trying to store up in a subsistence way and try to store everything up and get it to the fall and the winter. And the fall and the winter is always it's a slow time. A lot of people don't really understand that, how food prices go up, and if there was no food on the market, how screwed you would be if you didn't have a food storage. Let me put it to you in this perspective. You're probably used to going to the grocery store, picking up items. It's always there at the grocery store. You can always get it. It's not a big deal. Folks that go to folks that have been in emergency situations or bad situations in their lifetime, um, the grid can go down and the food system can go down very, very quickly. And people who are used to just, living hand to mouth and going into the grocery store and living paycheck to paycheck, and not having anything stored up, not anything canned or anything like that. If your food supply's cut off, like, you're screwed instantaneously. Like, you have nothing. You have nothing to go off of. Um, so that's why we feel it's so important in the summertime just to stock up on all those items, the canned items, the food, and get all of that carried over. And just like people in Alaska or anything like that, every winter we have a huge need for meat, and so we do a lot of different things, kind of diversify our portfolio, so to speak. So we've got folks that have chickens that will butcher and harvest if we have the opportunity. We have folks that have pigs, and we'll do that. These are all available. You can find them on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all kinds of stuff. You can get a hold of this stuff. Cow, sometimes we'll get a quarter beef or something like that. Sometimes those you really fill up the freezer and they get stupid expensive. But the biggest thing I really do is I hammer the deer. Um, so I buy as many tags as humanly possible and shoot as many deer as I can on every season I can. And the other thing I do is I run and go out and do like folks that want to give away a deer. There's a lot of hunters out there, man. They're just out there to shoot horns. They don't care about the meat. They don't want anything to do with that stuff. And that's totally fine. I get it. Um, I used to be a sportsman hunter for a very, very long time. It it's fun, and you have to deal with the meat and everything, but that meat should go somewhere and be useful. And nowadays, where I'm at, where I've got a family and I'm busy and I'm doing my stuff, and I want to, feed my family with as much meat as I can. So I take as many freebies and giveaways as I can. And that's what helps put food on the table. And I make deer burger, deer loin, deer everything. We grind them up. We cut them up and we eat them all year round. I could probably feed my whole family throughout a whole winter on about 3 deer. That's usually kind of been my thing. Now my sons are getting older, and that's going to have to kind of change as they go along. But also as they get older, they'll hunt. They can have more tags, and we can do more meat harvesting. So that's going to be really good on that end. So that kind of takes us into the winter time or fall into winter. November, October. Time frame where we can really start hunting deer. Um, and that kind of gets me into the trapping season, which is my real passion. I like to do is trap, and that starts November 1st where I live, and so um, that trapping for the most part is kind of a profit sport, kind of a weird deal. So like we sell our furs and we make money off of that, but you don't really make a whole lot of money. You kind of break even, and it kind of pays for the gear every single year. So every year, I go out and I trap and I catch more critters and have more traps and more traps, and kind of grow the empire, so to speak, and do more. Um, but there are some instances that you can be a subsistence hunter and trapper, a meat trapper, so to speak, and you can catch critters and eat them. So beaver's a really good one. You can catch beaver, especially if you catch them live, or if you catch them when they're cold, and conibears and stuff like that, and you can eat that meat. Some people eat coon, coyote, possum, all that kind of stuff. I don't really get into that because I usually have a plentiful amount of stuff that I harvest throughout the year, and I save up. But there is subsistence gains that you can have in doing the trapping thing and everything like that. So, um, but yeah, so that kind of takes me into winter, and then the cycle repeats itself. I go into spring and summer and fall. So we've always got something going on, and we're always looking at food in the circle of harvest as a structured deal, and that's something that we do all the time. And do we shop at Walmart and Hy-Vee and all these different places? Absolutely, we do. There's just certain things that I can't go out and get that we want, and we can afford it, so we'll get it. But I'll tell you guys, having hey Steven, how you doing? Um, First trap that I would recommend. We were talking about trapping, so we're gonna back up. The traps that I would recommend. Well, it depends what we're trying to go after. So if we're going after raccoons, um, the 1.5 Duke 1.5 coil spring, or the Duke dog proofs, I would definitely go for those, to catch those, and that would be on the coon side. Coyotes, I always go with Duke number 2s or larger, or MB550s. MB550s are a great trap. They're just a lot more expensive. Um, yeah, there's a lot of different stuff out there as far as trapping. You have to be a little bit more specific on what exactly we're pinpointing on. Beaver, obviously, you talk about large traps, or you're talking about snares too. So, but good question. Throw me a little bit more specific, and we'll kind of move on from there. Um, so, far as the subsistence, going back to that, it is, we, like I said, we kind of maintain that. We try to do something. We have something going on at all points in time of the year, and we're always being busy, um, trying to make food and try to save some money and just try to do the best we can. And there's nothing better than organic, grass-fed, good stuff, that will that doesn't have all the junk in it. Doesn't have the pink slime. Doesn't have the hormones, the antibiotics. I mean, I can tell you my gut health and my family's gut health is always better when we're eating deer, when we're eating venison, stuff that I catch in the field. The catfish that I catch isn't grown in some, cubicle farm of, sludge and force fed a bunch of garbage, just to get it up to size so that it can be sold. All the stuff that we eat has been growing, and it is survival of the fittest. It's the best of the best of the best, and it's survived as long as it has, and it's always better. So let's see. I have to catch a question here. So if you had $100 to get into trapping, oh, small game. Okay. Small game. So I'm gonna guess that this is probably for food. If it's not, like, if you're trying to catch rabbits, squirrels, things of that nature, or are you trying to catch fur bearer animals? That'd be my question. So the question was, if you had $100 and you were gonna get into trapping, what would you use? Um, and Stephen was asking that question. Um, so I guess I'll just kind of go off on two ends here, and we'll just kind of see where we go. So if I had $100 and I was getting into fur trapping, okay, yeah, okay, said for food. Okay, so if you're going in it for food, $100 for small game on food. So there's a lot of different options that you can go. $100 can actually go pretty decent ways in the trapping industry, especially when you're just looking for small stuff. Squirrels, rabbits, stuff like that can be caught in 110 conibears. So you can go to 110 conibears, go to F&T Trap and Supply, get those. You can make boxes. You can set them on tree limbs, put a piece of bait or a carrot or um, corn on a stick, on the trigger stick, and catch small game doing that. It's a very good method. You'll catch a lot of squirrels and rabbits doing it that way. I've caught them on 220 conibears. Um, if you want to get a whole bunch of snares, you can buy a lot of snares for very, very cheap. And you could get a whole bunch of very, very small game snares they're made out of very light material, aircraft cable. Like, so I would go to F&T Trapping Supply or southernsnares.com and get small game snares, and you can set those on trails and runs and catch a lot of rabbits, and your squirrels, anything, small game, all the way up to probably fox or anything like that. Snares are very, very versatile. Um, I would stay away from live traps, especially if you're trying to, unless you're trying to catch them alive and then dispatch them later. But the snares are good. Like I said, and even for small stuff like that, if you want to run blind sets on trails, you can do 1 1/4, 1 1/2 coil spring traps and place them in blind sets on trails. Those are really good, and you can get into those for like $4 or $5 a piece. Snares are probably a few bucks a piece. For a small game snare, they're not very expensive. You buy them by the dozen, and they're fantastic ways to catch a lot of small game. The live traps are expensive, but they do keep them live, which is, that's one thing to look at. Um, if you're trying to do for food and you're trapping, make sure that if you have a kill trap like a conibear or a kill snare, that you do it in the cold, because otherwise, if you kill that critter in the middle of the night or you kill that critter early in the day and it has time to sit there and expire and go bad over time, you want to keep that in mind. If you live in an area, like if you're, I think you said you were in the Bible Belt area, Midwest or southern states, you probably have a lot of beaver in your area. I would look into trapping beaver or snaring beaver. Now, traps for beaver can be extremely expensive. They're large, it's a lot of gear. So I would maybe look at snaring beaver, running off a kayak or off the banks or whatever. Um, Probably the best way to save some money doing that. So, super good question, Steve. Though I appreciate it. I hope that answered a little bit, and that's kind of been my experience with small game. I did a little bit of small game trapping this year. Ran some 220 conibears actually in my backyard. Um, I was testing them out and just seeing. I had some real small funnels and some runs that were running through some down limbs that I had, and ended up catching a couple rabbits out of the deal and had some stuff to put in the crock pot. So that was pretty cool. Um, so they can be caught. They're not really hard, and especially as a subsistence hunter or survival, sense, in prepping, it's good to have traps and snares that are geared towards small game. Um, because the deer and the larger game may not be available, but the small game will typically always reproduce and do very, very well. And so you kind of want to be on that game. So, um, but yeah, all good questions. So anyway, that was a pretty good topic. I wanted to cover today, and I'm going to kind of dive into some more areas with that and kind of how I do stuff more specifically compartmentalized per season, and kind of show you guys that stuff and everything. So I'm kind of doing these live streams, and I see, I get a couple people on there from time to time on these live streams, and I really appreciate you guys jumping on and asking questions and all that good jazz. It's a lot of fun. So if you guys want to see any other topics, go ahead and drop some stuff in the comments below. And remember, if you're in the market for a new holster, please go to huntreadyholsters.com and type in the promo code Pebble, and I will get you 10% off. Ray will hook you up. He can pretty much build a holster for just about anything. So make sure you get on there and check that out. I appreciate you guys watching, tuning in today. And until next time, we will talk to you guys later.